How's it going, everyone? This is my Decker Guide deck, the ultimate way to play Decker for BP2. We'll see about BP3. I'm quite excited. We got new Decker cards. We got lots of cards, things to try off with. Decker Guide. It seems like it might be a little weird. What about Decker Trigger? I mean, Trigger gets bonuses from Decker's power effect, which is while you have another triple ultra, all your single and Decker and Trigger have their BP grade increased by 1. That does not stack. So Geed is not benefiting from Decker. What's going on here? You gotta be asking. Well, let's think about what are Decker's strengths, what are Decker's weaknesses, and what does that mean, and why is Geed an incredible support? And then we'll go through the cards. Get a little graphic for you all. Okay, so what makes Decker strong? Obviously, playing 13k singles. Its ability to let your singles have a BP grade increase means when you play your level 3s as singles after setting up your Decker effect, they will be 13,000. That's hard to beat. It's incredibly powerful for just a single card. The triple Decker also has an 18,000 effect, and it's a triple, but it's only a 12,000 as a double. So you might need to put it as a double sometimes, but ideally you want it to be a triple to benefit from its 18,000, which is incredibly strong. And the last thing that makes Decker strong is a scene lock. So it has a round 3 scene, which means if you take the lead on that third round, then you can play your round 3 scene, and a lot of the scene decks that are very powerful right now, like Mebius and Blazar, can never play their scene ever again. That's the round 3 scene lock, because you cannot play a scene lower than your current scene. So those are things that makes Decker strong. But Decker obviously has some weaknesses, which is that there's no ways to increase BP within the deck. Oh, there's a little typo there. Let's fix that. No way to increase BP, which means you can't. There's no ways to easily increase your power by plus 1,000, plus 2,000, like the Arch scene. There's no Mebius that discard a card, give one of your Deckers plus 1,000 plus 1 BP grade up. These kind of burst effects. Decker has no burst effects, which is a little rough sometimes. And it's also extremely reliant on getting the Decker triple R online, which means you have to have at least one triple, and you have to have Decker. So there's maybe a consistency thing there, where if you don't draw your Decker, you're feeling pretty bad, but you also need the time to set up ideally 2 triples, right? That's your ideal. So what does that mean for Decker? It means it's very good in the longer games. Once you're set up, you can start playing those 13,000s. Your opponent's not going to be able to keep up, and they're going to crumble. That's the game plan of Decker. But it's weak in shorter games versus opponents with burst. If you're trying to set up your triples and you don't have any burst, it's very easy for someone like Mebius to come in and go like bop, 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 and all 3 of their cards have like plus 2,000 BP, plus 1 BP, grade up, plus 2,000 BP, and they can figure out a way to get around and win on lane 3 because you have no way to respond to them. So it's weak against things with burst. So that's where Geed comes in, is you would need a support. Like, how do we support Decker the best? If we consider Trigger, which is like, the intended support, Trigger helps with finding Deckers, the deck list. So because this card is so pivotal, Trigger has a top 5 search, which lets you try to find this card, which matters a lot, right? But it itself is a 16,000 power, and in a deck that you don't have any burst, that 16,000 is going to pretty much be losing all the time. So that's not great. It has a level 2 is a scene pop, which is kind of not counter, but it doesn't mix well with the round 3 scene, where you don't super care about their scene. If you can take the lead and then just play your scene, then the scene pop doesn't matter that much. So other than being useful for Decker's own effect, Trigger is not really adding much towards the weaknesses, which is I need to live the early game, and I need to last to the long game, right? That's where Geed comes in, specifically the Geed double rare right here. If this character's battle opponent is a double, you can have this character's battle be a tie for this turn. So if you play this in lane 3, it's kind of tough to play in lane 3, but if you can set it up correctly, this one will guarantee the tie on that third turn. So there's 3 lanes. You can set it up so this Geed gives you a tie, which is going to help you get to the next part of the game where you're playing these deckers as 13,000s all by themselves. That's like where you want to get. So that's the first thing. It helps you get there. This Geed is also helpful for that purpose. What it does is you can give one of your double Geed a BP grade increase 1 for this turn, either as a single or as a double. So on that lane 3, you can play him as a double, and he's a 17,000, which is going to be hard for your opponent to take. And hopefully can also, and it might even get you lead, which then you can play the scene and do the scene lock. So you can see how there's some synergy here where you can grab the lead and then take the scene, and then your opponent's going to be kind of on the back foot from the rest of the game because they can't play their scene. If you do have the Geed set up, you can try to win lead on lane 2, like turn 2, and then force the tie, which is not always going to work, but you can force the tie, and then you're guaranteed the scene lock. So these two act really well for stalling out the game until you get to the later part where Decker really shines, and also for enabling the scene lock. So big synergies there. And then the reason we have this Geed at 4 is because it has a triple, no cost. Give one of your Ultra Hero plus 1,000 BP for this turn. This is not a lot, but it gives you a little bit of burst. So you can set this one up in the front as a triple on your lane 1, and then you have a little burst to help you survive the rest of the game. I do need to play around with these a little bit more. I don't know whether I'd value 4 of this one to get that, make sure I can get the scene lock. But I opted for this one because with Decker's effect, I need to be building triples, and this one's not that effective as a triple. So any sort of triples I'm making, whether it's Decker, whether it's Geed, I want to be making triples that are helpful. And this one gives me some of that burst options. Only 1,000, but that 1,000, if it's enough to give you 1 tie, to keep the game going 1 turn longer, where you can play another 13 that your opponent's going to have a hard time keeping up with, that's really all you need. So that's why the Decker and the Geed is the perfect combination. And I'm sure I think there's should be one match video out which you can watch after this to see how that plays out. Really excited to keep working on this deck a little bit, maybe figure these out. It's just fun to play. I really like Decker. It's the first one I used to win the Galaxy Cup, our first Galaxy Cup. I really like Geed. Mono Geed was probably my favorite deck in the set 1. I guess these two were my favorite decks in the set 1, and they're combined. BB3, we'll see what we can do for Decker. I think Geed will have his own thing going on, but we'll see if he pairs up with the Decker again. That's it for me today. A little short rundown, but I think it gives you a lot of insight into how you can think about building decks. Pick your main Ultra. What's the strengths? What's the weaknesses? And how can you find an Ultra Hero that complements those really well? We'll see you in the next video, and let me know how you doing and what decks you might want to see me work on something like this in the future. Bye.